PMC Furniture, Boucher Road, Belfast.
Huge sale now on! How do you cope in stressful situations? Stress, it's a natural response to perceived threat or challenge. It can be a variety of things, like the deadline at work, maybe an argument that you're having, road rage, all of that. How do we cope? Let me speak to Dr. Johnny Bloomfield from johnnybloomfield.com. Johnny, good morning.
Good morning, Frank. How are we?
I am good. So talk us through this sort of instant stress that we can get and the natural way that it affects our bodies.
Okay, well, so we're human beings have been around for a long time, and through the evolution, we have an inbuilt safety mechanism, a safety sensor in the base of our brains, known as a little cluster of cells known as the amygdala. And the amygdala is there to sense, regulate our emotions, store our memories, and kind of have a temperature check of what's around us, what could potentially harm us, and how do we stay safe. So the amygdala is a very, very sensitive little part of our brain, and it gets even more sensitive whenever we deprive it of sleep or deprive it of starve it of food as well. So when we're tired and we're hungry, we become a little more irrational. So fortunately, we're not entirely controlled by the amygdala. If we were, the world would be chaos. We have the front part of our brain, which is much more rational. It's where we are making our reasoning, our thinking, our decision making, where we do planning. It's a much more rational part of us. So we might experience emotions, but still have a level of ability to recognize them and deal with them and cope with them. But sometimes when the emotions are very powerful, like they're strong ones like anger or aggression or fear, the amygdala kind of takes deactivates down the thinking part of the brain, and we do things by instinct, and quite often this can lead us into irrational behaviours and may end up with a bit of embarrassment or regret or guilt or shame or whatever. We kind of do things that aren't really like us.
Some people can control it better than others. You see, on the football pitch, for instance, individuals will lose their temper immediately and strike back at someone else, like in a almost a Stone Age sort of way. And that's, you know, I know particularly in amateur sport, there are certain clubs or communities that you can almost predict that that's the way they're going to behave. They'll have 2 or 3 players who are just out of control in their own heads, and if they're challenged, they strike back. Whereas you get other teams that are much more sophisticated and will be, you know, as they said in that great show, Jerry said in that fine program, Blue Lights, take a beat. You know, just take a beat. And take a beat sometimes is a very good thing to do, because it only takes a second to realise you're about to make an absolute idiot of yourself.
Yeah. I mean, there's people, there's tactics can be administered to pull out the red mist in front of these characters. You know, whenever people are a little bit more sensitive or a bit more emotional, then there is that higher potential for them to see the red mist and lose the rag and do something that they maybe regret.
So the good example of that is road rage, isn't it? You know, where some people, they cut them up in the car and they just go bananas, and some will blare the horn in anger, some will get out of the car and shake their fist, some would come over and actually confront you at the passenger, at the driver's door, passenger door. They just, you know, what is it about some people that behave like that? Whereas other people, if you cut them up at the traffic lights, they would go, for goodness sake, and then just drive on.
Well, I think we've talked about the amygdala this hijack is an automatic response, but it can be intercepted. You can start to detect the feelings of what the body does is the fight or flight system. You can start to sense that in your body. You might find that your muscles start to get a little bit tenser. Your breathing might start to become more intense or rapid. You and you just feel like more energized or more mobilized. Once you kind of have that instant sensation, you need to recognize, okay, I'm not me anymore. My amygdala is taking over. I now need to reclaim that. And the best way to do that is by breathing. It's like knowing, just finding that instant moment where you're about to do something you shouldn't, and breathe.
Is that the same? Is that breathing? Is that the same technique that you should use if, for example, you're going into the office to ask the boss for a pay rise and you know that he's going to reject you, but you've thought through your arguments beforehand as to why you should get the pay rise, and yet and all, when you're in there, he says, no, this isn't possible. You get a feeling of, where have all those arguments gone? They're no longer in my mind. So a short breath brings them back. Yeah. It's about remaining calm when you're under pressure, when you know you're in the right, and expressing yourself. Is that down to breathing as well?
Breathing puts us in that state, so we're able to engage in that thinking part of the brain much more effectively, and remain in a state of emotional control. So your breathing in those heated moments is your best ally, and then trying to pause, try not to let any not have an instant reaction or physical or verbal reaction in the moment. Pause, just don't release anything, and just kind of breathe through until the rational side of yourself starts to kick in one more time. Now, this doesn't just happen like from me telling you to do it. This is something that you need to practice. So where we look at, every week we talk about lots of different aspects here about looking after yourself. So otherwise we can call it self-care, and taking that care for yourself and actually investing time into promoting your calmness, for example, is a great way to give you the power and the strength to be more controlled in these moments.
And is it easier for someone who is regularly in a challenging situation than it is for people who would only rarely find themselves facing an interview with their boss or facing road rage? Is a human being who regularly has to face a challenge, like a police officer, for instance, who each day will be in a situation where they have to, take that beat that Jerry talks about, just focus, do the right thing, or a paramedic. I'm just thinking of people who are in challenging situations almost every day at work. And probably an example of this would be the life that I've led myself as a television presenter. Every day is a new day in front of a live television camera. You can't spend every day thinking about being in front of a live television camera. So you go through your day normally. Let me put it another way. If someone is going to be live on television just once, it probably is on their mind all week in the lead up to it. I'm doing a live television interview in 3 days' time. I'm doing it in 2 days' time. I'm preparing for it. I'm going to go live on the television, and I've prepared myself for it. So you get through it and you do very well. You can't go through your whole life if you're on television every day thinking about, I'm going to be on television today, I'm going to be live, I'm going to be delivering my opinion on something. So therefore you have to have a default situation where you can lead your entire day, every day, just as someone who doesn't have to go into the public sphere, but seconds before you go in, you prepare yourself for it. At least this is my own personal experience of it, whereby if every day I did live TV for the best part of 35 years, and it never crossed my mind until about 30 seconds before I would do it. And I had this little mantra, which was a strange thing, where I clicked my heel on the ground. I just clicked my heel as I walked across the threshold to go towards the camera. And for the next 5 minutes or so, I was in clicked heel territory. And on the way out, I would have clicked my heel again and stepped away from that zone that I was able to enter. And then things were back to I'm not on television anymore. So that was probably my way of handling what you're describing as, get your breathing right, get your your posture right. You haven't time to go through all of that if you're working live every day.
Well, look, what you've described is absolutely magnificent there. So, we get, the more exposure we gain to stress, the more we get used to it, and it depends, of course, what that stress is and how you perceive it and how you face it. Is it a threat or is it a challenge, which is what you opened with? So if you see it as a challenge, you're more likely to welcome it on a more regular basis, and then you have the triggers that you can switch on, switch off. So when you click on your heel there, that's you switching on into challenge mode, and then you deliver your broadcast, and then a way of clicking your heels at the end was your way of switching off and back to normal Frank one more time here. So it's very good way of regulating yourself there, self-regulation, and being able to adjust yourself to be mobilized for the challenge, or and then to switch off and come down that and start to recover for the next challenge that comes around the very next day.
Yeah.
So
you see footballers do it sometime in the way they enter the field of play. They do a little skip, or some of them bless themselves. There are different things that they do to enter the zone. And I don't know whether they do it leaving the zone or not, but to enter the zone, they have a ritual. They have, I don't know how to best describe it, but it's a little switch that they're now in that professional mode to deliver what they're being paid for. I just wonder if others do it. Paul Clark doesn't seem to click his heel, but maybe he does a different thing. I know something that Paul does, which I'm not going to reveal here on the radio, but it's something that, it sums up Paul Clark. I don't know if he does it before he broadcasts every day, but he's got an interest outside of broadcasting, which is very important to him. And that is probably his way of entering a zone. Everyone needs something, because if you go into, for example, an interview for a job or a big work presentation, or to make a speech, or indeed to arrest someone on the street, whatever your dramatic element of the day is, if you're not prepared for it, you're going to make a Horlicks of it.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, like I say, it's all about exposure and experience, and then backing yourself to deliver the whatever it is you've got to do. But I think self-awareness is another massive aspect of this whole thing. You have to have that awareness of your states and how you control your states, and how you then repair and replenish from after you've done that. So a wee bit of self-reflection once you've done an event like that's raised your stress, to look back, how did I do, what can I learn from this, and how can I do it better next time. That's the way that stress won't. You'll cope. You'll find your coping strategies like you've described yourself.
Yeah, coping strategy. That's exactly the term. And is that a way of controlling adrenaline, or controlling cortisol, or any of these hormones that are being released? Yeah, absolutely. So there's effective coping strategies and ineffective coping strategies, of course. So it's like trying to pick again those self-care ones that help us to help make sure that stress doesn't become harmful or chronic. So you don't cope with one form of stress with bringing in a different form of stress, like alcohol or smoking, or some other way to relieve your stress that has harmed your health. So it's about trying to find adaptive coping strategies and ones that do you good and help